Welcome to your Global Pulse Executive Briefing. Look, I know your time is literally money, so we are going to cut right through the noise today. We're bringing you the absolute highest impact global developments you need on your radar right now. From shifting geopolitical fault lines to rapid-fire tech disruptions and urgent regional crises, we're unpacking exactly what's happening out there. That way, you can factor these complex, interconnected events directly into your quarterly strategy. All right, let's get right to work. Okay, let's dive into this agenda. First up, our global geopolitical security briefing. Second, we'll cover European conflict and crises. Third, Asia-Pacific disruption and rescue. And finally, we'll wrap up with the global cultural pulse on sports. Section 1. Global Geopolitical Security Briefing. So right off the bat, U.S. Central Command has launched targeted strikes against Iranian missile sites and boats. Now, as an executive monitoring global risk, the absolutely critical data point for you here is the stated protocol. Washington has explicitly cited self-defense. Why does this matter? Well, when you're evaluating global security and market stability, understanding the precise, stated rationale for military action is crucial. It's the key to anticipating future diplomatic maneuvers and, quite frankly, potential supply chain disruptions down the line. And, at the exact same time, a major diplomatic deal is basically stalled. Why? Over complex wording disputes. This isn't just standard bureaucratic red tape we're talking about. This is the exact friction point where global stability currently hangs in the balance. It's a really stark reminder for us that massive geopolitical shifts and the market shocks that come with them often hinge on the interpretation of just a handful of words. Crazy, right? Moving on to Section 2, European conflict and crises. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we're tracking two vastly different scales of crisis currently straining European infrastructure and resources. Over in Kyiv, a powerful Russian ballistic missile strike took place during a massive coordinated attack on the capital, obviously escalating those large-scale conflict risks. But simultaneously, over in Belgium, a catastrophic train collision involving a school bus has tragically left 4 people dead. For multinational leaders, this really highlights the dual nature of regional instability. You've got these massive macroeconomic military threats demanding international responses right alongside sudden, localized infrastructure disasters that require immediate emergency risk management. Next up, Section 3, Asia-Pacific, Disruption and Rescue. So we have to ask, how will AI reshape K-cinema? Look, South Korea possesses one of the most influential film industries in the entire world. And right now, they're essentially serving as a massive testing ground for rapid technological integration. As executives, you are all constantly weighing the risks and rewards of artificial intelligence in your own sectors, right? So watching how a major global cultural export handles this level of disruption is just a brilliant real-time case study for us. And this situation perfectly illustrates the friction inherent in that tech disruption. On one hand, we're seeing aggressive adoption of AI technologies. A real dive-right-in approach to capture efficiency and innovate. But on the other hand, this is colliding head-on with intense structural pushback and debate over the future of the industry's workforce. It's a localized debate, sure, but it's acting as a real-time proxy for the global push-and-pull dynamic literally every tech-forward business strategy is going to face eventually. So, the crucial point is, despite our heavy focus on high-level tech and boardroom strategy, regional operations remain incredibly vulnerable to unpredictable natural events. Right now, 7 villagers are trapped inside a heavily flooded cave in Laos. Emergency response teams are in a desperate race against time. They've been deployed for a week now. It's a pretty stark contrast to those AI debates we just talked about, really highlighting the massive urgent allocation of resources required when human survival intersects with geographic volatility. All right, wrapping things up with Section 4, Global Cultural Pulse on Sport. 1999. That year marks the end of a very, very long drought. By sweeping the Cleveland Cavaliers, the New York Knicks have just secured their first NBA Finals appearance since that exact year. Now, looking at the business of sports entertainment, breaking a multi-decade drought in a massive, heavyweight market like New York, that is a huge cultural and economic driver. It's basically a pure market momentum story right there. Keeping with that theme of major achievements, the Houston Astros pitching staff just combined to throw the franchise's first no-hitter in 2 years. It's an incredibly rare feat of precision and teamwork, and honestly, just another really upbeat data point in our check of the global cultural pulse today. Which brings us to the single most important question for you to take away today. How do these cascading geopolitical fractures, tech leaps, and global events actually impact your strategic planning for the quarter? We've looked at targeted military strikes and super-fragile diplomacy in the Middle East, escalating conflict in Kyiv, AI disruption shaking up South Korea, and urgent regional rescues. Look, these aren't isolated incidents. They represent the volatile, rapidly shifting environment that your business operates in right now. How resilient is your supply chain to a diplomatic wording dispute? How is your specific industry responding to the kind of AI disruption we're seeing in K-cinema? Let this explainer be the catalyst for those tough conversations with your teams today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you at the next briefing.